Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling. I shall see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today on the actual timing that this should be uploaded. Everything being sort of thrown out of whack, mainly because I didn't really get a chance to record yesterday. But here we are at the usual time. What are we going to talk about today? You know what I can talk about? I'm going to talk about this mainly with a preamble that I saw this from a hobby drama post on Reddit, which I wasn't initially going to read, but eventually did, and I'm glad I did. So, good evening, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 10:32 p.m. on Friday, July 26th, 2024. Yeah, so the backstory is I saw this post on the hobby drama subreddit. It was like super popular. Like it's been on like my front page for like ages, and then I actually just like read it at one point because I was like I didn't have an internet and it was a cached post on my Reddit app, and I was like, okay, let's actually check it out. Why not? And then I read it and I was like, whoa, hold on, this was actually a really cool story. And what the story was, it was about Destiny 2, the game, if you don't know about it, which is, I think it's a first-person shooter. I don't really know what game genre it was. I thought it was just like a first-person shooter with like dungeons or something, and I think it's kind of like that, except for it's kind of like an MMO, maybe? I'm not sure. Anyway, the major thing about Destiny 2 is the fact there are things called raids, which are essentially like dungeons that you get in any sort of MMO. And as I understand it, these are like the big highlights of Destiny 2, and I can understand why after like reading more about this. Destiny 2 is a game I've always heard about, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll try it out someday, and then of course never actually tried it out. But I thought it was kind of similar to like Warframe or something for some reason, and I guess there are similarities, but it's not really the same game, is it? Anyway, long and short of it is apparently Destiny 2 is basically, they have these runs, every time there's like a new patch and then there's like a new raid to be released, a new dungeon to be released, there's always like these big community moments where all the like top raiding teams will come together and basically try and race each other to be the first team to get the clear on the raid, on the dungeon. And it's a really intense moment. There was a lot of like, really like high. It's not like high stakes because it's not. I don't guess it doesn't matter that much technically, but like it matters, of course, in a sense of competition matters, right? Is it going to like change the world? No, of course not. But that's, I think, a wrong sort of scope to be comparing things with. It's just like a really intense sort of like competition. And I didn't realise how cool the actual raids were in Destiny 2 themselves. Like, as I said before, I basically know nothing. Not nothing of Destiny 2. I knew Destiny 2 and I heard of Destiny 2 raids. I didn't actually realise what they were though. And I didn't realise how cool a lot of these sort of like puzzle things were. Because I was reading about the subreddit posts where it was detailing, I can't remember what the raid was called, but it was like the most recent one. The Last Shape, is that what it's called? Something like that, I don't know. Where it was the most intense raid, yeah, and it was actually the longest time for any of the raids to be beaten like in history or something. It took like the fastest team, spoilers, took like just under like 24 hours or something to actually defeat it or something, and it was like, whoa, that is crazy long. And I was watching the video and then I was like, this is actually genuinely really cool. There's some things which are like, it's sort of like a mix of like these very sort of puzzly elements together with, of course, like actual good shooting gunplay, etc, etc, etc. And the reason that I'm going to give you a TLDR version, please go look up our hobby drama post if you want. I'll find out what it's called. I remember I said something with like Taylor Swift in it. That's what I remember. How Matching Shapes and Taylor Swift broke the Destiny community. Salvation's Edge, that's what it's called. But the reason that basically this raid took so long is because there was a room, or like there's a load of like challenges they have to go through. The first challenge was some sort of like, they had to play like this game of ping pong, essentially. I can't remember. But basically because these people are figuring out the mechanics as they go, it's the first time they do it, and each time they die on a stage, they have to redo the stage again, as I understand it. I don't know if you have to redo the whole dungeon again if you fail on a later stage, but they're basically constantly iteratively trying things. And there's like, you're in like teams of 6 doing this entire thing, and everyone has like these roles to play. Everyone's got like these different things that everyone needs to do, like specific things here and there. And then like some people like even have like a coach to like feed them like things to try information and see what intel they can get from other teams. But it's like, it's a surprisingly intense competition, and it's surprisingly cool to watch, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, so that's what's basically happening. And then the reason that this one took so long, it was, well, one, it was just like a pretty difficult raid. I don't remember most of the stages, but like a lot of them were pretty hard. But there was basically this one room, this one stage, which was like a really intense and difficult sort of like puzzle stage, apparently, which is not that common in dungeons. Which is why it took so long, because some people they got like really tripped up at this point because it was really quite intense. And me watching the video of the guide, like figuring them being like, oh, how to figure out what is this puzzle, made me want to be like, oh, I wish I was good enough at Destiny 2 so I could have been there to try and figure out this puzzle as well. I feel like I would have devoured that, not like devoured it as in like I would have been like really good at solving it or anything. I don't know, but it would have been so fun, I think. Sort of like a witness where you go around experimenting, trying different things, and eventually something sticks. But I mean, I'll try my best to explain it to you, because it sort of gets my game design sort of like itch scratched in a sense, where I was just like, oh, there's some really like cool moments and things in here. But basically you enter like this really like white chamber, and then the first thing you see are like 6 red statues of your own characters, essentially, which then disappear. And then it's I mean, I was just like, that's just like a really cool cinematic moment in the first place. I don't know if it has like thematic lore, not implications, but like mirroring or something. Like it makes sense in lore for this to happen, but I'm just like, what a cool concept. That thing, will I steal that for D&D at some point? Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, it's a sort of thing where it's just like, yeah, absolutely, I like, that's a really cool idea because it actually plays into the mechanics. And then what happens is like the group gets split into 2, 3 people on the inside and 3 people on the outside. And then the 3 people on the inside, as I understand it, see each of their own each of themselves like as a statue, one holding up a circle, triangle, and square respectively. And basically there are these enemies to kill which drop more shapes. The difficulty there is just like, how do you get these people out? A similar thing happens with the people on the outside, where I don't know if it's they see themselves or they see the 3 people inside, or I can't remember exactly who gets seen, but they see basically similar things, but instead they're holding up a sphere, a cube, and a tetrahedron. And it's just like, oh, obviously there's something to do with shapes here. Like there was a lot of mechanics before about circles, squares, and triangles. It's like, how do you apply them here? And apparently the solution is, if I remember, is like if you're on the inside room, you basically have to call out what the order of circle, square, and triangle is on the outside, and then the people on the inside need to make it such that the one which starts with a circle needs to end up with a square and a triangle. Needs to be holding a square and a triangle, because that's the thing, like with the shapes that are dropped are different to the statue shapes or something. And then when everyone starts by holding 2 different shapes or something like that, or not 2 different, 2 shapes, and between everyone there are 2 circles, 2 squares, 2 triangles. And what you have to do is you kill the enemy to get them to drop the circle, square, triangle shape. When you have that, then you can run to the statue of a respective player and you deposit that shape into the statue and it gives it to them. And you basically need to do these trading things all about the place, such that each person has a combination through the statue and the 2 shapes they're holding of circle, square, triangle. Simultaneously, the outside team kind of need to do the same thing, but their mechanic is different. Like the shapes that they get dropped, they're not like holding anything, but the shapes that they get dropped act as like keys, where if you like get dropped a square shape, you can take a square shape, go up to any statue which has a square in it, use it on that to extract the square, and then choose another statue and it will swap shapes with that one. And the reason they're 3D shapes is because the combination of the 2 different shapes together makes a shape. Like it starts off as a cube because that's 2 squares in that statue, and then a sphere is 2 circles, then a tetrahedron is 2 triangles. But you want to end up with, was it a cylinder, which is a circle and a square, a prism, a triangular prism I should say, which is a triangle and square, and what was the other one? A cone, which is a triangle and circle. And those shapes that you have to match, the pairings need to be, I think, the same as the pairings on the inside group as well. It's something like that. I can't quite recall, but basically you need to, that both inside and outside groups need to align, and when that happens, then the inside group can leave the inside to go back to the outside to like free themselves and actually do the rest of the thing. But then there's also this like really cool mechanic as well, where like partway through, the big bad evil guy, the final boss, will catch on to what they're doing and try to stop them, and they'll scripted kill everyone in the inside room, such that they die, and then when you die in this game, you can spectate your ally players, but you have like a ghost spirit sort of like left on the ground. But they have this really interesting thing where at this point, where you saw the 6 statues to begin with of each of the players, the people on the outside need to go back there, pick up the ghost souls which have been left on the ground, and place them in the correct statue's position. But the thing is that outside players can't see the statues. Only the inside players, spectating through the ghost cam of the outside players, can see the statues, see one statue in one location. Which is not necessarily their own soul, but they can see one of their allies, and they have to feed that information to the people on the outside to be like, oh, I see, like Alice over here, I see Bob and that one. So you've got to have like different enough cosmetics on that you can actually differentiate each other. And I was just like, that is a really cool, like clever meta-breaking concept. It's not something that you use all the time, of course, because that sort of subverts the expectations of mechanics and the rulings of them, I suppose. But it's a really cool thing to bust out for. What, as I understand, this is like the final raid in Destiny or something, so it should go big or go home. And there's a lot of sort of like play here with like illusions and sort of mind-breaking abilities, right? So I think that makes perfect sense. And it was just like really, really cool to see that like explained. And I was just like, wow, that is genuinely like a really creative like mechanical dungeon raid thing. And then, like, at the end, once everyone's escaped, and you have a thing where everyone but one player dies or something, and then they basically have to do that ghost thing again, but with all 6 people. So each one sees a different statue, not necessarily not of himself, and then they had to sort of feed out information of who is seen where, and then like when putting it back revives them or that sort of thing. Yeah. I thought that was really cool. I found it interesting about them doing it at the end. Oh yeah, but also on like an universal timer throughout this entire thing, which is what made this one so difficult, is because if you didn't complete like the challenge fast enough, you would just get team wiped, just like that. Raid wiped even. So it's like on a decremental ticking time bomb of a raid solution. Yeah, I thought it was interesting though that at the end one, instead of being like a chain of like, oh, the first person revives someone and then they get put into stasis, and then someone else needs to revive someone else and someone else needs to revive someone else. It's you get revived and then they can continuously do things. I thought that would be like a nice sort of like cyclical way to tie everything up, but I understand why they didn't, because that's probably also quite frustrating as a gameplay mechanic. But like hearing the entire story about trying to discover what this puzzle room was about, I was like, that is so cool. It's so cool. One of the funnest things about puzzles is being able to figure out the mechanics to even interface with the puzzles in the first place, and seeing like what it's that process of experimentation to see what mechanics work, and then it's a process of solving it once you understand how it works, to put everything together. I mean, it's why like The Witness is such a cool game, because you don't get taught any of the rules, you just sort of have to understand them through like this tutorialization aspect. Except for, I guess, in this case there is no tutorial. There's a little bit of tutorialization aspect, but not as much, because they introduced like the shape mechanic earlier on or something, and like watching that made me just be like, wow, that's a really cool story. There are like other cool like encounters I think throughout the rest of the raid, but that shape room really sort of like struck a chord with me, where I was like, that is really cool. It made me want to play Destiny. Congratulations, Bungie? Is that the people who made Destiny? I think so, the people who made Halo, right? Although maybe I'll wait for Destiny 3 or something, because I assume that must be on the horizon if Destiny 2 is basically like ending. I don't know if that's true or not, by the way, and maybe I won't actually play it, because I assume it's a game which requires a lot of like a time sink, and I don't have that sort of time, unfortunately. But yeah, I just like loved it. I loved it from like a game design perspective. Like, how much I love game design and coming up with levels. There was nothing I like more than coming up with interesting mechanics to employ in certain, even in game systems I don't know about like particularly well. Like Destiny is one of them. Like I had the same sort of like vibe when I was watching, I can't remember, the modded Dance Revolution speedrun by, I can't remember their name, but whatever. The person who did it, and I was like, it's so genuinely cool to see. It's like genuinely so cool. Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say about this way. So yeah, I don't know if Destiny 3 comes out, I'll give it a try, maybe. I don't know how much Destiny 2 even costs. I'm going to guess it costs AAA titles, so probably £50 or something. $50, so it's probably like £40. Oh, it's on Steam. It's free to play? Oh, but the DLC costs money? The DLC costs money, I see. Right, some of these are poorly reviewed. Is Final Shape... I don't know what Final... I'm very confused how this works. It's a negative review. If you're a new player who's not played Destiny 1 or Destiny 2 from launch, you will understand nothing. They deleted everything that would have given context required to appreciate the story. What? A new player experience is horrible. Unless you are there on time. Okay. Destiny has no legacy. Right, so Destiny is a very much sort of like live service sort of game. Okay, well, maybe there's not going to be a Destiny 3, so maybe it would, maybe it's a bit too late to jump on that bandwagon, which is a shame, because I was like, it seems like, you know, there's some cool mechanics or stuff going on at the same time, which I'm excited to, like, hear about, at least with these stories. Excuse me, that's not where I wanted to put the Lily of the Valley. But yeah, I forgot, what was I going to say again? Oh, I should definitely customize this shovel before it breaks as well. I forgot what else I was going to say about this. But there's something else I was going to say. It was just a really cool concept. Oh yeah, and I went down like this sort of rabbit hole of, looking at other sort of Destiny 2 raids and being like, oh, what's going on with those? And then like I can't even remember what this other one was, but there was like another raid where you, like, people had to go into like a chamber area to get symbols and come back out and put them on like these pillars or something, and then like there's one boss where instead of actually like straight up defeating a boss, you had to basically buy time with it by continuously stunning it over and over again, and I was like, that's a cool idea. I don't know, there was a lot of cool things, and like there was even more which I haven't even looked into. Like there's one that was called like the Vault or something, which I saw basically its name crop up over and over again, which is apparently some crazy like puzzle as well, which maybe I would appreciate, maybe I wouldn't, I don't know. And it's just like looking at these things makes it makes me sad for the, you know, in a sort of like FOMO sense of being like, oh, that could have been something really cool to like participate and be a part of as it happened, but alas I was not. So that's just how it is. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this episode up here, I think. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.